Good morning and welcome back in our weekly Facebook Live. My name is Andrea and I am the founder of Corpo Giardino Yoga Practices, the community where you are watching this video right now. And I'm back. I took a couple of weeks of break, but I'm finally back online and with a lot of ideas to what to share with you in the next days and months. I wait a couple of minutes to wait. I wait a couple of minutes, of course, to wait to so that people can join us live in this Facebook Live, or of course, if you're watching the replay, you can skip a bit some minutes so that we can really begin with the talk instead of kind of this waiting moment, which is also a bit weird all the time. And if you're watching live or if you're also watching replay, please share with us from where you're watching this video and how you feel this morning. I go first. I am sharing and I'm going live in Facebook from Switzerland, the Regia Graubünden, which is very close to the mountain and from the city of Chur. And I'm feeling serene this morning and I'm very excited to share with you this talk, which is very dear and precious to me, as basically this is the core of what we do in yoga. And I can't wait also to see your comments or to see the feedbacks you have around this topic. So again, 1 minute and then we can slowly begin. I can see somebody's joining us. Good morning, good morning. Good morning. And before we begin officially with our talk, which is called Yoga as the Process of Undoing, I want to share with you, if you don't know it yet, that last week I decided to postpone the early bird prize of an online retreat happening the first weekend of October, which is called Reset, Nourish, Refresh, to Saturday, the 25th of September. So you still have 5 days, more or less, to enjoy a 30% off the full price if you want to join this online retreat, which is, I can't wait really to welcome you in this sacred space, in this nourishing and supportive sacred space for women who wants to step away from 1 weekend from the hustle and the daily busyness, to take time for yourself, to nourish yourself, to reset, to reboost, and to meet new women that will support you, achieve you along the way. So I would say we can begin. Welcome back again. My name is Andrea and I'm the founder of Corpo Giardino Yoga Practices, which is an in-person and online community of strong women, passion-driven women, and high-energy women looking for more balance into their life. And I support this process using different yoga tools and the yoga process and following the wisdom of nature to create and sustain balance in the long term. And the talk of today, it's the core of what we do daily when we step on our mat, when we sit on our meditation cushion, when we journal. Yoga, at its very core, it's a process of undoing. Undoing what? The first time I heard this sentence years back, I was kind of surprised and really confused. I didn't know what it really meant. But the more I was going through this process and the more I was practicing, that it became very clear that yoga is really a process of undoing. The more we practice, the more we get used to take layers of collective, cultural, and individual self limiting beliefs, past experiences that still living in our body, bias, and interpretations. And it's the process of letting go who we think we are and slowly shifting and reconnecting, realign to who we really are. Because since we're born, we are conditioning every day from our family and first society and the culture where we live in, and the experiences that we have in our group of circles and relationships. And these create kind of a layers and also build up our personality, to be honest. And in the process of yoga is to go and take off like clothes, really like clothes, peel like an onion, and see all of these conditionings we have since the beginning of our life, and asking ourselves, is this mine? Is it aligned with me? Or maybe this is not aligned with me anymore and I'm ready to let it go. And the first book of the sutra, Yoga Sutra, it's all about that. It explains what yoga is and what's the process and what's the purpose of practicing daily yoga, is to unveil and take the veil off our illusion. And illusion is conditionings of the past experiences, interpretations, bias, memories, all the things we said before, limiting beliefs, and see what we really are and discover underneath all of these layers who we really are. And anytime we step in a yoga studio, anytime we roll the mat, and if we practice at home, anytime we enroll for courses, classes, training, retreat, no matter online or in person, we begin that process of undoing. We are willing to step in the unknown and begin the process of undoing. Think about, for example, when you practice in the evening and you enter in a yoga studio, the act of entering in a space that is quiet, hopefully cozy, clean, that it's very intimate and sacred for you and the persons around you. That moment, it's a moment when you can really take the clothes off your working day, release a backpack of emotions, conversations you had during the day, and go back to yourself. Go back to yourself to breathe, move, meditate, journal, no matter what you do that day. And that's a very precious moment. It's a very intimate moment with ourselves. And in Corpo Giardino yoga practices, I always begin with the process of undoing. And no matter if it's conscious or unconscious, no matter if it's clear or unclear for the students, but in the way I structure the classes, we always begin with the process of undoing, of letting go of something, arriving in the room, arriving in the body. And in order to do that, we need to live all the conversations we had that day, the work we did, something that is kind of bringing us down outside your body and outside the room. And that's why, for example, for the online yoga retreat that I'm doing next week, basically at the beginning of October, the first module, I call it Undoing. Arriving again at home, leaving the backpack out of the room and of your sacred space. And this process of undoing, not only it's like a mirror, or so that we can really see ourselves in the mirror and see how we said limiting beliefs and conditionings, which they can be individual or cultural, collective, bias and interpretations. It's also essential when we go through a phase. It's essential if we want to refresh and reset and re-nourish our nervous system. If you think about your nervous system, and think about that lately, maybe you experience a very stressful time, like very stressed at work or in your relationship, or something happened that is really causing you a lot of stress. Basically, you are in a stress response, and the stress response is the fight and flight response of the nervous system, fight, flight, and freeze, where we produce hormones, stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. And we are kind of, with the sensation is that we are saturated and we are full of maybe work issues or family issues. And stress and things to do and things to think about. When we are in that saturation state, we can't take anything else in because we are saturated, even if it's a self-care and it's a self-nourishing practice. If you think about it, when your schedule is full, the idea, for example, to schedule even your yoga practice can feel kind of overwhelming, and it's not fine, right? Am I right? So in order to reset, renourish, reboost our nervous system, we need to kind of push the bottom, eject, and take time before a yoga class, at the beginning of a yoga class, the beginning of a retreat, when you want to then shift to self-nourishing, to let go and to delete and to flash out, no matter you want to picture this, what you don't need anymore from that day. So when we do that, we create space. We create space, as we said before, to really look at ourselves with an honest look, like in a mirror, but also to create space to plant new seeds, to plant self-nourishing seeds, self-care seeds, self-love seeds, and healthy seeds to create what works for us. And when we plant new seeds, we can then become a corpo giardino. This is why I call this community like this. Corpo giardino are two Italian words, and they say a body made of garden, because we can bloom and flourish at the best of our potential and the best of our capacities. But first, we need to go through this process of undoing and making space, taking the layers of our conditionings, past experiences, self-limiting beliefs. So then we have space, and the earth is fertile to plant new seeds, healthy seeds for you, and to become really the best, the best version of yourself. So it's essential to kind of refresh the system in that way, to bloom in that way, and to tap then in the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest, restore, and digest system. And as we said before, this process of undoing, this process of letting go to replant and renourish happens every time we decide to practice. Well, even earlier, so because your yoga practice doesn't begin when you step on the mat or you step in a yoga studio. It begins way earlier that day, when you develop the decision that you're going to do something good for yourself and your well-being. But if we take that moment of arriving in a studio, arriving at home and practicing at home, that's as I said before, it's a very sacred and intimate moment with ourselves, and if we are in a studio, the community of a studio. And this is what we call in Corpo Giardino yoga practices, not only here, of course, but we take really a good care of it. It's our sacred space. The sacred space is where we normally practice, studio, or maybe at home. And we can create a condition, so we can adjust the physical space where we practice in to create the conditions for yoga to happen, for this process to happen. For example, if you're practicing on your own, make sure, and at home, make sure, for example, that the space is clean and tied up, because first of all, the outside is kind of a reflection of what is happening in the inside. So if you look around and you see a messy space, probably there is kind of confusion and distraction in the mind. So in order also to influence our inner world, we can also change and adjust the outer space where we practice. Maybe we can tie it up, we can clean, we can light up a candle or light up an incense if you like, play some nice music to create this nice atmosphere, so that moment become very intimate with yourself. This is, for example, one tip that I always give my students to create their sacred space, but Tomorrow, if you want to learn more about it, the blog post about the process of undoing will come out, and there are more tips that you can follow if you want around your sacred space. And if you're going to the studio, of course, the creation of the sacred space, it's not in your hands. You're not the teacher. That's a job of the teacher to create the room and prepare the room and to arrive there early enough to make this space intimate, cozy, and sacred. But of course, you can always share with the teacher that day if the space, for example, or feedback around the cleanliness of the space, if the space is quiet or not. So many times as a teacher, for example, I had to tell my students to lower the voice when they talk inside the yoga room, or to have conversation outside, or to have even phone call outside, because that's a moment, that space, it's a moment when we arrive with the same intention, that is, I want to leave everything that I experienced today on my back. I want to breathe and go back to myself. So feel free also to share with the teachers if you're going to practice in an online in a person classes, to adjust maybe the sacred space if something is not resonating with you or aligning with you. Of course, this is also very personal situation. It's a very personal interpretation of a sacred space, and make sure that for your own practice, at home practice, you find your own way of creating your own sacred space. I have, of course, some tips, but then you need to feel comfortable in it. And the sacred space that you find in a yoga studio, for example, of course, it's influenced by the yoga teacher or the yoga studio policy, but still talk to the teacher and see also from a feedback from you as a student if you can improve even more that sacred space. Good morning. I saw people commenting, good morning. And this is it. I mean, this was a lot because it sounds easy, the process of undoing in the yoga and experiencing this process in the yoga space. It's what we do basically every day on the mat, and it lasts forever, for our entire life if we want to. But what I'm asking you at the end of this video, your next step is, next time that you practice in person, in a yoga class in person or online on your own, be mindful and pay attention to what was happening in that specific moment. Pay attention and be mindful to what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and how you are showing up in that space. If you realize that you're showing up in that space still with conversations that happen at work in that day, or I don't know, past experiences, interpretations, bias, no matter what is going on in your head, that's a great opportunity to begin that process of undoing, and layers upon layers upon layers, to take the clothes off of what is not yours really, what is having you and bringing you down, and go back to yourself. Go back to your inner landscape, go back to your breath, go back to your yoga space, your inner yoga space. So really pay attention anytime you enter in a yoga class, anytime you're beginning something like a course or retreat or a training. That specific moment of arriving, it's a moment where we start to undo, to deconstruct, to reconstruct ourselves. If you have questions, I'm always here for you, so you can feel free to leave it in the comment section below, or you can also private message me. I'm here for you, and I hope this talk was a kind of a reflection of what is happening on the mat every day, because when I started to practice, I thought that my practice was start with facing dog, more or less. But after 10 years, of course, I could experience on myself and see in my students the magnitude of this process and the beauty of this process, because it's a really processing, it's a path of undoing, deconstructing, to reconstruct and to rebuild something that works for you, that it's nourishing you, that is refreshing you, that it's making you feel alive and feel our beautiful prana. So I hope you could enjoy this. And I said before, write me questions if you have it, or share your experience of the process of undoing in yoga if you want to. We see you next week with our Facebook Live, and I'm thinking to change the time, but I will do I will ask inside the page and the groups what is the best time to practice together and to have this Facebook Live together. And as I said before, also go and check out, I will leave the link, the online yoga retreat, Reset, Nourish and Refresh, happening the first weekend of October. The early bird price is still on until this Saturday, the 25th of September. I wish you a beautiful rest of the day and see you soon here on Facebook or on Instagram. Bye.